The Trip. Chapter 3. Daniel. Daniel woke to silence, the kind that only existed in certain parts of Manhattan before 8. His apartment in Hell's Kitchen faced an interior courtyard. No traffic, no pigeons, no sunrise angles to mark time. Just the vague hum of pipes and the occasional elevator sighing its way past his floor. A kind of architectural hush. He lay still for a moment, his eyes on the ceiling, his thoughts already in motion. Not spiraling, scanning. Headlines from overnight, a half-finished article draft, a source he needed to call back, and the voicemail he'd been ignoring since Tuesday. A voice he hadn't heard in 4 years, now asking for a meeting. He got up, barefoot, and padded toward the kitchen. The apartment was functional. Wood floors, metal bookshelves, no art on the walls. Everything in it had a reason. Everything in it could be packed in 24 hours. The mocha pot hissed to life. He poured a shot of espresso, drank it standing up, then opened the window to let the day in. He dressed like he always did, unbranded, layered, neutral tones. Journalist camouflage. The kind of look that could pass unnoticed in a press pool or a protest march. He ran a hand through his dark hair, now starting to show a stubborn streak of silver above his left temple. He left it. The subway to Times Square was uneventful. He took the local out of habit, not speed. Slower trains gave him more space to think. The Ledger newsroom occupied the 7th and 8th floors of a 1950s tower that had seen better decades. The lobby still had gold-trim Art Deco details, but the elevators wheezed and the reception desk hadn't been staffed in a year. He badge-swiped through the glass turnstiles, nodded to no one, and made for his desk in the far corner of the open floor. 2 monitors, a legal pad with unreadable scrawl, and a corkboard with clippings, handwritten notes, and a single postcard from Reykjavik. On the screen, his latest draft, a long-form piece on real estate shell companies buying up midtown blocks through Delaware subsidiaries. He had 3 quotes, 2 off-the-record confirmations, and 1 anonymous source who hadn't returned his encrypted message. He reread the first paragraph. It was solid, precise, but lacked friction. Daniel didn't believe in outrage, he believed in architecture. A good story was built paragraph by paragraph, shaped to withstand pushback. He opened a new tab and searched the LLC again, cross-referenced land records, called a source at the city clerk's office, left a message in a voice that said, "I'm not going away." At 10:30, his editor, Marcia, stopped by his desk. "Daniel," he looked up. "You have lunch with Nora Garvey today." His face didn't move. "I declined that." "She re-requested. Personally." Daniel exhaled slowly. "Where?" "Corner booth at Locanda Verde." 1 o'clock. He nodded, already knowing he would go. He hadn't seen Nora Garvey since she ghosted his calls during the second round of indictments tied to his article on campaign finance laundering. Now she was back in town, head of a new lobbying group with a cleaner haircut and likely a new set of talking points. Marcia tapped twice on the desk and left. Daniel leaned back in his chair. He didn't like lunches with people who wore invisible armor. Still, he checked the time, stood, and began planning what kind of silence he might weaponize when the moment called for it. Locanda Verde was already half full when Daniel arrived. Lawyers, media types, a few low-level celebrities pretending to be noticed. The host led him to a corner booth, far enough from the windows to suggest privacy, but close enough to the entrance for Nora to spot him first. She was already there. Hair shorter, coat sleeker, smile curated. "Daniel," she said, standing just long enough to remind him she still played by a different set of rules. "Thanks for making time." He slid into the booth across from her without responding. The waiter arrived like a ghost. She ordered a sparkling water and a salad. He asked for black coffee. Still minimalist, she said, stirring a lemon slice into her glass. He didn't reply. She moved quickly. I wanted to clear the air, she began. What happened during the finance piece, I was under pressure, and it wasn't personal. Daniel raised one eyebrow. You went silent, he said. There were threats, Daniel, not just legal. There always are. She leaned in slightly. It wasn't fear. It was strategy. He studied her. And this is what? Regret? Nora didn't blink. It's an invitation. He waited. I'm building something. A policy outfit, private backers, think tank meets lobbying firm, clean, nimble, transparent, when it counts. Daniel smirked. So, not transparent. She didn't smile. We need credibility. You still have it. There it was. He took a long sip of coffee, letting the bitterness anchor him. You want me to launder your narrative? No, she said quickly. I want you to challenge it from the inside. Help us shape what's real. You've done exposés. Do a different kind of work now. Daniel looked past her at the window reflections bouncing off wine glasses and plated burrata. What's your budget? Competitive. Your funders? She paused. Discretionary. He nodded once. That told him everything. The check came. She reached for it. He let her. Another silent negotiation. As they stood, she placed a hand lightly on his forearm. You were never just a reporter, Daniel. You were a signal. He looked down at her hand, then back up. Don't mistake signal for allegiance. Outside, the wind had shifted. The sidewalk felt sharper. He walked for 3 blocks before checking his phone. No messages, no missed calls, just a quiet buzz of unease under his jacket. He didn't go back to the office. Instead, he walked. West on Leonard, then south toward the river, past the kind of boutique fitness studios and mid-century resale shops that didn't exist a decade ago. He wasn't nostalgic, but he kept track of what changed. Daniel turned down a quiet stretch of Hudson and ducked into Café Panino Mucho Gusto, a place he hadn't visited in months. It was dim and narrow, with brick walls the color of burnt espresso and a counter that looked older than most of its customers. The air smelled faintly of toast and roasted beans. Espresso came in ceramic cups, not paper, and the register didn't try to collect your email. He sat by the window with a second coffee, this one slower, and let his mind wander. Not to Nora, not yet, but back. Her name was Ellie, from undergraduate, Boston. She'd been the first to call him impossible in a way that wasn't meant to end a fight, more like an affectionate diagnosis. She worked in international development now, or had. Last he heard, she was in Tunisia. But that wasn't what had surfaced her memory. It was a word Nora had used, signal, that had triggered it. Ellie used to say he read people like a language no one else was fluent in, that he waited for patterns before letting himself speak, that he mistook observation for safety. She'd been right and wrong, but mostly right. He stared out the window. A woman outside was trying to get a stroller up the steps of a brownstone. No one stopped to help. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. Massachusetts area code. He let it ring once, twice, declined it. 30 seconds later, a text. You might want to take this call. Not about you, not directly. No name, just that. No punctuation. He stared at it. He didn't reply, but he didn't delete it either. That evening, back in Hell's Kitchen, Daniel didn't open his laptop. He cooked instead, something he rarely did. Onions, garlic, a tin of sardines, spaghetti. The kitchen filled with that sharp human smell of something real. He poured a glass of red, no label, and stood by the counter eating directly from the bowl. Then, almost without thinking, he opened Instagram. He didn't post, just searched. At Camille Dufresne, her account was minimal. A few black and white installation shots. One candid photo from Florence, nothing revealing. but he stared at it longer than he meant to. He closed the app, sat down, let the silence come. The call came at 12:17 a.m. Daniel was reading in bed, Joan Didion slouching towards Bethlehem, half out of obligation, half out of awe. He didn't like to keep his phone by the bed, but tonight he had. Same number, Massachusetts area code. No text this time. He answered. Yeah. There was a pause. It's Peter, the voice said, from Brattle Street. Daniel sat up. The name hit like cold water. Peter Klein had been his mentor at the Beacon, the investigative weekly in Boston that gave Daniel his first byline worth remembering. You're hard to find, Peter said. I'm not hiding. No, but you're tucked in, aren't you? Daniel didn't answer. Peter cleared his throat. You remember the Epstein mortgage thing you sniffed out in 14? Daniel's eyes narrowed. What about it? Well, someone's trying to sell a version of it to ProPublica. They're 4 steps behind what you buried. I didn't bury it. I just couldn't get it clean. Peter made a sound like a laugh without warmth. You were too careful. But listen, the Delaware trust that backed that shell corp, it's linked to a holding group that just bought 6 buildings in Midtown. Daniel froze. I'm working that story now, he said. I figured. Peter was quiet for a moment. Do it right this time, Daniel. Then the line went dead. At 1:03 a.m., Daniel was back at his desk. Lights off. Just the screen and the quiet click of his keyboard. He pulled up land registry documents, layered them against a public SEC filing from last quarter, and traced a direct link to a boutique financial firm based out of all places, Red Hook. That name made him blink. Stratenia Holdings, Charlotte. A friend, part of the Colony Circle. He had met her at a roundtable panel last spring. Different sides, same table. She was sharp, poised, more polished than most finance types, Scandinavian, worked at Oris in business development, and clearly knew the ecosystem well. Now her employer had signed a partnership with Stratenia 3 months ago. The press release was vague. Strategic integration. He made a note. The threads were moving, and they were tightening. The next evening, Daniel walked 9th, past the wine bars and the fluorescent bodegas and a gym that looked like a photo shoot. He cut west at 45th and kept moving until the river took shape. Ferries like slow ideas. The skyline cutting its clean line against a sky that couldn't decide. He stopped at the railing near Pier 84 and let the city thin out. A couple argued softly 3 benches down. A delivery bike clicked past with a loose chain. Daniel opened his notes and wrote 4 words. Oris, Stratenia, Trust, Midtown. He thought about Nora, about the word signal and what people meant when they said it, about how close investigation and allegiance can look from the outside. He walked home. The air had cooled, stretching into something brittle around the edges. 9th Avenue was half closed for late-night street work. Orange barriers, blinking lights, distant hum of machinery echoing off buildings not yet demolished. He opened his phone. No new messages, not from Peter, not from Nora, not from Ellie. He opened Instagram, searched again. Camille's story, a short clip of a neon sign, endings are illusions, no location tag, just her caption, warm light, real noise, no edits. He didn't reply. He let the screen dim until his reflection took the frame, quiet, exact, held together by structure, not silence.